done a video in a long time, and I think that the video topic explains my absence pretty well. I just launched my shop a month ago, and I haven't really done an official, YouTube video about that. So yeah, official announcement. My shop is now up. Yay! So I thought that I would come here and I would talk a little bit more about the process of making my own prints and opening my own art shop, because of course it's something I've never done before. And many of you also have been asking me if I could make this video and if I could explain the process a little bit more. So I thought that that would be a great idea for a video. And yeah, just know that I was dreading filming this video for the longest time because I didn't want to be here and sit here for hours and just read from a script. So I have written down some bullet points, but I'm not going to be sitting here reading from a script. So this is going to be a little bit rambly. You know that I'm bad at explaining. Just know that this is a chill video. It's a very dark day today, and I'm just feeling like sitting here and, talking to the camera a little bit without, having to be professional. But let's start with the actual video. So yes, I made my own shop a month ago, or I launched it a month ago, but of course the process for that started a lot earlier. So I'm selling prints, I'm selling originals, and I also made a small calendar that I'm selling in my website as well. I have a bit of an audience on social media, so for me launching it was much easier than for someone who doesn't have a big audience. So keep that in mind while I go through the list of what I did, because I don't want this to sound like, yeah, it was super easy and I didn't have any audience at all. Like, I know that many of the people that order from me have been following me for a long time. So just keep that in mind. I'm not trying to say that everyone can do it in the same way as I have done. I'm also not a professional at any of this. So take everything that I say with a grain of salt, okay? But I think that it's best to start this kind of project with a plan in mind. And it doesn't mean that you have to have the best written out, organized plan for your shop and how you do everything, but I would say that it's very important to have some kind of idea about what you want to do and how you want to do it. And yeah, just think about things like, what are you going to be making? Are you making prints, originals, calendars, bookmarks, stickers? What are you creating and where you are going to be selling it? Are you going to be focusing more on markets and selling products to people in real life, or are you going to be making an online shop or something different? And also, who are you selling for? And I think that something that is also important to think about is a time frame for this shop launch. Are you going to be opening it in a few months, or are you going to be making this whole process a little bit longer? I think that it's important to have some sort of time frame in mind so that you know what kind of products you are going to be making. Not that no one buys things out of season, but I would personally say that if you create, you start painting for your new shop launch, you want to make prints, you're going to be painting a lot of wintry scenes now, and then you realize that, oh, my shop launch is in April. It might not be the best idea. I'm not saying that that's the worst idea either, but think about that in advance, at least in some extent, so you know what to expect. Something that I think is also important to think about is, do you have to make all of this artwork that you're going to be selling, after making this plan, or have you maybe already done it? So for me, it was clear that I wanted to use some of my sketchbook paintings that I had already done. And of course, I can then later on also use some pieces that I am doing in the future, in my future shop updates and things like that. But I knew that many of my sketchbook paintings were kind of popular on Instagram and in TikTok and YouTube as well. So I think that that was the obvious option of making some of those paintings in my sketchbook into prints. And I think that that was a great idea because some people were already, familiar with those pieces. So it was kind of easier to then sell it to others. And of course, this limits the amount of workload you have to do. And yeah, makes just life a little bit easier if you already use some of your old artwork, so you don't have to do absolutely everything from scratch. I wanted to make more A5 sized smaller prints, and then I wanted to make a few bigger A4 sized prints. I also thought that I could in the future offer some originals as well, but that wasn't, a goal of mine to offer when the shop launched. Then I also wanted to make a calendar, and since I didn't have that much time or energy, I just made a small calendar. I also wanted to make a shop for my prints, and I had done some research beforehand and found that Shopify is probably the best option because it's super easy to make a website that way instead of using something like Squarespace, where I had heard that it's a little bit more confusing. Something that I also did beforehand was looking at my own Instagram post insights and my reach and my comments, and I also asked left a question sticker in my stories to ask people what they would like to see as prints, and those kinds of things helped me a lot to see what kind of paintings I should turn into prints, because of course now I have some research and I have some results and I can see what people like the most. So after I had already done some sort of planning and I had already researched shipping, taxes, product pricing, and I had looked at some of my friends' shops and just seen what kind of products they offer and what kind of pricing and all the things like that, I moved on to the next step. So I took my sketchbook and I went to a public library to use a free scanner. You can also use a camera to make your paintings into editable files, but I wanted to use a scanner just because it just, seemed like such an easy option. So yeah, we have in Finland many public libraries where you can use the scanners for free, and that was my case as well. So I decided to just use that so I don't have to buy myself a very expensive scanner. I use the 600 dpi setting, but don't ask me anything about settings like that because I don't know. I just looked at it and I noticed that it's the best quality, so I used that. So I scanned every single one of my pages in my sketchbook, and I did this because, if I in the future want to turn some random pages into some sort of prints or whatever, I always have that file now. And also, if something happens to my sketchbook, even though digital copies do not replace my original sketchbook paintings, at least I have that backup now. So let's talk about editing the files now for the printing. And just know that I'm talking about these steps in a different order that I actually did them in. At this point, I had already thought about the printing company, and I think that I had already even messaged them. So just know that I'm talking about these in a different order than normally, but it just makes more sense story-wise to talk about the editing at this point. So yes, when you are scanning your artwork from a sketchbook or whatever, you have to probably edit it somehow, because there is always going to be a little speckles of dust or some imperfections in your painting. You might want to change some things up, and yeah, that takes a little bit of time and effort. So again, you just want to make sure that your file doesn't have any dirt or dust or any discoloration, because now that you're going to be sending it to your printing company, of course, they are not going to do that for you. So this part of the video is probably going to be a little bit confusing because I'm having a hard time explaining this. But I basically just went into Photoshop now that I had the files of my scanned paintings, and then I made a canvas for each of my print sizes. So for example, I have my A5 prints, which are a little bit smaller, and I just googled the dimension of A5 and I made a canvas in Photoshop with those dimensions. So then I did the same with A4. So basically I made the canvas or the file size exactly the same size as the finished print. So that would be a little bit easier for me to see the dimensions and how the painting would actually look like. And I did one separate file for each of the sizes. So for example, in my A4 file, I had all of my A4 prints in different layers, and then in my A5 I had them in different layers. So I didn't have multiple different files for each and every single painting, and I don't have to, copy paste my settings from one file to another. And I knew that I wanted to have a white border for each of my prints. I had to measure the size that I wanted the border to be in, and Photoshop has these rulers that you can drag from the sides to your canvas, and I basically just measured an X amount from the left and right borders with the painting, and then I just added that ruler to the area where I wanted the painting to start, and I did the same like symmetrical line on the other side, and then I did the same thing to the top and bottom. And now I had 4 different rulers on my white canvas showing me where the white border of the print will start in. And now you can start dragging those scanned files onto your Photoshop file. And what I did was I just moved the painting around on top of the canvas and just rotated it and looked how the final look would be with those white frames. Then I used the rectangle tool and used the inverted mask so that only the painting section of the file would be left and all the rest of the scan, you know, the white area around your sketchbook in the scan would be gone. And the next thing that I did with my files in Photoshop was to finally clean up everything. So I was using the healing tool and stamping tool. I was just using the healing tool to clean up the file from those dust particles and whatever little hair pieces that there were in the scan. And then I used the stamping tool on bigger areas, for example, like editing out the middle section of the spread. So of course, when I have scanned my full spread, it has the crease in the middle of my sketchbook, and I just had to clean that out. And it was a lot of work, and sometimes it looked really bad, but I am really happy to say that I got there in the end, and now all of the bigger prints look like it wasn't done in a sketchbook, which is very great. And after I got all of those files edited, I actually ordered samples from my printing company. But I'm going a little bit ahead, and let's talk about actually making the prints itself. So there are many different ways of creating prints. Many people and many artists like to do their prints at home, which, I mean, more power to you, but that just sounds like so much work and it doesn't sound fun. And I was just contemplating, like, do I want to do it with my own printer? Because there's a lot of troubleshooting included in that. I will have to figure out the perfect color settings. I have to probably waste a lot of paper, and I just knew myself and I was thinking how frustrating that would be for me. So I ended up choosing another company to do the prints for me so I can just sit at home and not stress about that. But if you are actually interested in doing everything like that yourself, you can totally do that. So I was trying to find a printing company online that was specializing in fine art printing, because I wanted to make sure that my prints were really high quality and made on a textured watercolor looking paper. So I was looking at some companies first from Finland, but I noticed how expensive the options were, and I didn't really want to do that, especially here in the beginning, because I just wanted to make sure that, I even get this whole thing started before I do something that is so expensive. So I widened my search a bit, and I was looking at some other EU-based companies. I just didn't want to pay for taxes and customs, extra payments. So I found a company that is based in Portugal, and I ordered some samples from them. I ended up ordering samples with 2 different bigger prints that I had edited, and I was looking at their papers, and they provided me, they said that they could send me a lot of samples from different papers, because I didn't really know what I wanted to go for. I had one paper in mind, but actually when I got the samples, I changed my mind, because I noticed that the colors looked slightly better in this one option that I didn't really even think about beforehand. So I would say that ordering samples, if you can, is very important, so you can see the texture of the paper, you can see how the colors in your prints look like. This is also a good opportunity for you to see if the quality overall is good and if you can trust this company, because this is a great way to see what kind of work they do and how they do it. So I think that, opening those samples and noticing that they all look very good, even though I had my ultimate favorite, I think that all of them were good enough. If I would have chosen any of them, I would have been happy. And after I had figured out what kind of paper I want to go for, I actually ended up ordering all of my prints. But of course, there's a lot of things that happened in between those moments, so I'm going to be talking a little bit more about shipping right now. So I think that, again, this is one of those things that you already have to figure out, at least partly in that first planning section of this whole process, because there's so many different ways of shipping. I would highly recommend you to search info about shipping in your own language wherever you live. Is there an option to send things with stamps, or should you go for tracked options, or if it's even possible? Tracked shipping is so expensive. I instantly figured out that that is not even an option because it cost me like over 20 euros to send to any other country than Finland if I use track shipping. So I immediately noticed that my only option for now is to use stamps. And stamps are also expensive, so there really is no good option, but that was the best one. But again, I think that there are many things that you have to consider when thinking about shipping, such as taxes, customs, also the weight of your shipping products and your shipping like envelopes and packages and things like that, because those are also things that you might need to consider if you are especially sending with stamps, because some countries have regulations about the weight of your package if you are shipping things with stamps. Also, do you have to send things in a package or in an envelope, or what kind of sized envelopes you need for your products? Because I think that that's also an important thing. If you are sending out small items in a big envelope, you are essentially probably losing money. I mean, there could be exceptions, but you could be losing money if you have that sort of weighed stamp shipping option. That could also really affect that. So there's a lot of things to consider, and I would highly recommend spending a lot of time on this and knowing what you are doing. Maybe calling different places, maybe calling your local postal company or whatever and asking what they would suggest you to do, because I did that multiple times and I figured out again that shipping with stamps is the best option. There are also different plans for businesses with like these different shipping companies that you can use, so it would be really good for you to also look into that. But let's also talk about the packing supplies itself. So I think that it's very important to think, are you going to be again needing boxes or envelopes? So I'm someone who doesn't need packages because all of my items are flat, so I'm using envelopes. And when you are shipping pieces of art, of course you have to consider that they could bend in the package if you have a very flimsy envelope. So I think that when you are selling prints or original artwork, it's actually very good to have some sort of rigid mailer or some sort of craft mailer, or if you are using those more flimsy type of envelopes, maybe you could add a cardboard or like a cardstock in your package to have a little bit more structure to the package, so the prints or the stickers or whatever you are offering, they don't bend while they are shipped to maybe another country. So I'm using 3 different sized mailers for all of my orders. The smallest one is the A6 sized normal envelope that I use for orders that have only one calendar in them, and I accidentally ordered ones that are very flimsy, so I'm doing the same thing. I am adding in a piece of cardboard box, and then I'm also wrapping the calendars in bubble wrap to make sure that they are not damaged during the shipping. And then I'm sending out my smaller and my bigger prints also in different sized envelopes. So for example, for the A5 sized prints, I have an A5 sized rigid mailer, and then again for the A4 sized, I have a bigger A4 sized mailer. So for inside of the mailers, I'm using glassine bags for my prints to protect them a little bit, and also just to tie the packaging together so everything is inside of them. And I have them in 2 sizes again. And I'm also reusing some tissue paper that I got with the prints. So when I ordered all of my prints, which I'm going to be talking about a little bit later, I received all of the prints with tissue paper in between every single print, and I was like, what am I going to do with all of these tissue papers? But I've been wrapping all of the calendars inside of those tissue papers, and for the bigger papers I have used them for my originals. So I think that it's very important that you can reuse things that you already have, and there's nothing to be ashamed of when you do that, because it's so much more environmentally friendly, and you also save a lot of money, because I have packaged like over 100 of my calendars inside of these reused tissue papers that are perfectly fine to use, and I have saved a lot of money. Something else that I'm also adding to every order is like a piece of this huge ribbon to just make the package look a little bit nicer, and then I also make my own packaging stickers, and I order thank you cards. Don't waste too much money on packing supplies that people are eventually going to throw away anyway. I think that there's a lot of people who think that they have to add a lot of freebies and extra decorations to their packages. And I think that that's a great idea and it looks very pretty. But if you're spending a lot of time and money on packaging your orders, it might not be financially the best idea. But I'm quickly gonna say something about my thank you cards. So I did not do them by myself. I ordered them from another company again. The company's name is Flyer Alarm. And I think that it's kind of, you could compare that to something like Vistaprint again. I didn't need to have this in the best quality possible. So I ended up going with them because they have pretty good prices, I think. And yeah, I just made the cover for the thank you card in the same way that I did my prints. And then I made the other side, which has the text with Canva. And I would highly recommend using Canva for any sort of graphic design needs that you might have with your shop. I've made my logo there and pretty much like everything. Or actually, did I do my logo there? Well, it can be used for so many different things. I always edit my thumbnails in Canva. So I think that it's a very good free website and good tool for you to use with your small business. And I also did my packaging stickers myself. Again, this is something that you don't have to actually do. You can just use something like washi tape or tape if you need tape. I just ended up making stickers of my own because I kind of like the process. I have a printer that I printed them on, and then I used my silhouette portrait to cut the stickers. But let's now talk about something that was for me probably the most difficult thing about this whole process, which was making the website and buying a domain. I wanted to use Shopify again because I just had heard good things about it and I think that it looked fairly easy. So when I initially made my website, I actually did not have the prints yet, but I had ordered them. So I started making the website by just customizing the look of it and making the home page. And I used a lot of placeholder images. So when I knew that I wanted to have like a banner or a picture somewhere, I just added a random picture that I had to that area. And I did this with the listings as well. I had taken screenshots of each and every painting and just added it there. So when I eventually get the prints myself, I can then very easily just add them to those listings without having to, build everything at that point. If you want to have a domain that is maybe your Instagram account name or something, maybe your own name, you can buy yourself a domain. But yeah, it took a little bit of time to, again, at this point, look at some YouTube videos on how to link the domain to the Shopify website, but everything worked pretty well and I got everything done, which is something that I've been so proud of. Like, so many of the things that I've done with this whole project have been things that I've known nothing about. So the fact that I've been able to do all of that and I survived, and there really has not been that big of issues yet. So I'm really proud of myself for handling everything so well. But let's talk about the prints now. So I ended up going for 5 different A4 prints, so the bigger prints, and then I went for 8 different smaller prints, which are in A5, and then I ordered also my calendar. And I also at this point figured out, since I was doing the Peachtober challenge for the whole month of October, I thought that I could also sell the originals in my shop when it launches, because so many people had been asking if they could purchase them. So it's like, well, I could also do that. That is not too much extra work and I've already painted most of them. So when the prints arrived, and I really loved them, I opened them up and I was so scared, even though I trusted the company, but I'm so happy with how they turned out. The colors look amazing. There wasn't really a big difference in the color in the file versus the finished print, which I was really scared because, there could always be some pretty significant differences in how the painting looks on your computer to how it looks when you actually get it. But the fact that it was so similar, I was really happy. But while I was unboxing my prints, I actually filmed a video of that, and I tried to also film some snippets of the whole process so I could post something on social media. I also, at that point when I unboxed everything, I decided that I will be having my launch in a week. So I kind of announced it with that video of me unboxing the prints, which was really good because I think that the video did really well on Instagram too. So it already got people kind of hyped up for the upcoming launch. Then I spent a lot of time to take all the pictures for the listings. I had over 100 pictures because I did not only take the listing photos, I also took some pictures of some of the prints together. I also took some pictures for me to post on Instagram when the launch happens, and also before that I took some collection photos as well and things like that. So there's a lot of things that you should probably photograph. I also took a picture of all of the originals for the listings. So it was a lot of work, especially because it was so gray here. I was like, is there a day that I can take pictures? But I finally found one day and it was great. And then I also edited all of the photos. That took a lot of time too. And then when I finally got all of the pictures edited, I finally replaced those placeholder pictures with the actual photos. And I think everything looked really great. When you are taking product photos, make sure that your pictures look good and they are good quality photos. If you have a chance, use a natural light. I know that it's sometimes hard, especially here in the north where we really don't have much light. But I think that lighting is a very important thing about making those listings and taking those photos, because those photos are eventually the thing that will sell your products. So make sure to maybe use your camera, or if you have a phone with a good camera, you can use that too. So the next thing that I was thinking about for my shop was the pricing. So there's of course many different things and many angles that you can look at this from, and I would highly recommend you to not look at it only from the customer's perspective or only from your perspective, and try to think about it with both of them in mind. I looked at, shops from my friends. I looked at other artists and their websites and what they are asking for their original work and prints. But I was also thinking about the manufacturing costs for me, and I was also thinking about the profit. So when I was thinking about the prices for my shop, I was thinking about the manufacturing cost, and I tried to multiply that number by 3 or by 4, or maybe 4.5, depending on what kind of product I am offering. So for example, with my calendars, they cost me something like €7 to make, and I listed them for 24 euros. I already thought that that was kind of too expensive for a product that is so small, but at the same time I was thinking about the fact that that is my most expensive product to make, and that also takes me the longest time to work on because I have to cut each and every one of the calendars by hand with scissors. I think that is very important to think about profit when you are making products to sell to others, and I think that people oftentimes just undervalue their art in a way that they are not asking for enough money for their art. And yes, for a consumer, a print that is €6 compared to 13 euros is much better deal. But at the same time, it doesn't make any sort of sense for me to list my prices so low that I'm barely just making back what I invested in that. Yeah, I was trying to think about shipping from different angles, and there's also one angle that I have not talked about yet, which is a part of the shipping. But yeah, I'm currently kind of losing money on most of the things that I'm shipping. Packing things cost me like €1 for each package or something like that. And then if I'm selling a bigger print and I'm shipping it to the US, that already cost me over €9. So I'm asking for €5 in shipping. So it means that I'm basically losing money. So I'm also trying to think about shipping and the prices of all of my products. But there's so many things that you could be thinking about, and I would just say that please don't price your items too low. But let's go to one of my favorite parts of this whole process, which was the advertising on social media. And of course, this is coming from someone that has a big audience. I have like 270,000 people following me on Instagram. So of course, it's easier for me to say that this helps you a lot, because if you don't really have any followers, this might be a little bit tricky. But I think that advertising your future shop updates already starts with you posting anything. And I think that, for example, I was posting multiple times every day in the month of October. So I think that that already helped me a lot with people coming to my account and kind of getting used to the fact that I was posting a lot and I was posting about my art. And then when I set a date for the shop launch, I think that that was the moment where I really tried to figure out how I was going to be posting about this upcoming shop launch. So pretty much everyone that followed me, not everyone, but everyone that followed me would know about the launch happening in a week. This meant posting to my stories a lot, posting to my feed every day, posting to my YouTube community tab and my TikTok stories and into my TikTok feed. I made different kinds of posts about my shop. During that week before the launch, I filmed a little video where I showed a few of which I thought that are probably going to be my most popular prints, and they were. Posting a little video about that. I also posted something. Let me look. I also posted a video of all of my Peachtober originals. I also mentioned about the shop launch in every single caption of my post on Instagram, because with each and every post you have the opportunity to reach a lot of new people. So I think that it's good to mention it so that people that don't know you yet also might now know that you have this shop launch coming. Also, from the day that I made the unboxing video, I also made a little, countdown sticker thing on my Instagram stories, so people can actually tap it and they will get notified, which is a great way to notify people about a launch. I think that is a very useful tool. I was also showing some behind the scenes things. If you don't have a lot of followers, I think that overall posting a lot before that is going to be the key, because if you're not posting, no one will know about it. And when the launch time finally came, I also posted during that moment on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube at the same time. I tried to make sure that everyone knows that this is happening, and I'm continuing to talk about my shop pretty much every day. It's not like something that I again do just to market my shop, but it's something that I'm also very passionate about. So I want people to know that I'm doing this, because I also noticed while I was working on this that there are so many people that I follow that I don't know that have shops or have some people stream on Twitch, and I have never heard of that. So I wanted to make sure that a big amount of my followers actually know that I have a shop. So they would be like, yep, that person who has a shop. I want to be that person who has a shop. The launch went incredibly well. I got over 100 orders in the first, 24 hours. And I was so incredibly happy with the fact that people were actually buying something that I made, because it's different to be just supported online. It's different to actually have people giving you money and saying, I want this in my home. But yeah, it was so amazing to see all the orders come in, and just seeing how many people were in my shop the moment it launched, and just knowing that people are actually genuinely interested. That meant so much, and I'm so happy. And it has been better than I expected. I spent a lot of time just packing the first orders, and I got all of them shipped. It was a process that was very stressful, because it was the first time that I've ever doing something like this. So everything was very stressful and very new to me. But I'm just really happy that I did this, because I've been procrastinating with this idea for years now. So now that I have that base done, I have a shop, I can do so many new things that I couldn't do before I had a shop. So that's great. But I do have a couple of important things that I want to say about owning a shop that I didn't really find a place for. But there's so many boring little things that you have to do in order to open a shop. Call different places. Make sure that you can do that and you don't have some sort of weird limitation on how many orders you can send out or how much money you can make. Make sure that you know that beforehand. Handle all your taxes. Not so much fun. I actually cried so many times during this whole process about taxes. Such a stupid thing, but such a big thing about owning a shop and selling things is taxes, unfortunately. Something else, please buy yourself a post box. You're gonna be doxing yourself to random strangers on the internet if you don't get a post box. So when you're selling things, you have to add a return address to your envelopes and to your orders and to your shipments. And if you are just adding your normal home address, you're basically giving all of these people your home address. It was so expensive. I think it was like €1,000 for me to actually start it. But I think that it's probably less expensive in other countries. But yeah, that was the video. Oh my gosh, I spent so much time on this. I'm super hungry. It's like actually pretty late and I still have not eaten my lunch. So I'm gonna do that right now. I hope this video was useful. I think that I forgot a lot of things, and if I did, I will try to add them in a voiceover or something, or I will just write a thing in the comments or something. But I really hope this was useful to you and at least you had fun just chilling with me for this moment. It was probably a long video. Yeah, it was probably a long video. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed your time and you learned something new. Please go and check out my shop. I will have a new original collection launch on the 10th. So I will also post a video about that. So if you want to see that, you know, go to my shop on the 10th of December. And yeah, go to my shop now, please, to see what I have. But yeah, thank you so much for coming here. I really hope you enjoyed your time and I hope you have a great day wherever you are. Like this video if you like the video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and leave a comment down below, maybe telling me which of the prints I order is your favorite or something. Okay. Thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye bye.